Hello, welcome to the Skate Podcast, your source for two morons talking about movies.
It's a good one. It's very accurate.
Yes, okay. Well, Monster Month is over. I thought it was fun. I apologize to anybody out there that listened to the last two episodes of Monster Month.
Oh, yeah.
We were experiencing some technical difficulties. We think we have it hammered out.
Now we're back to our normal, terrible
Right.
sound quality.
Yes, and that was a very nice disclaimer you put at the beginning of the episode.
Thank you.
Yes.
We
We strive to bring you trash. So, it's a little bit later in the month than we were hoping for, but whatever.
Yeah, it's been a rough month.
We wanted to get kind of a family-oriented movie. Well, last year, around this time, we did Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, we were trying it. Well, we were just aiming for Thanksgiving-themed movies.
Yeah, if you Google it, there's a list, but it's not the biggest and brightest list out there. Oddly enough, we picked another movie that could be considered a John Hughes movie.
He did certain things. Some he wrote, some he produced, some he directed, some he did 2 out of the 3, some he did all 3.
Yeah.
And some, I think, what did he do? He just wrote this one, I think, right?
He's only listed as the writer, but...
Right.
Well, yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, give us the ins and outs.
All right, so Dutch, for those unfamiliar. Dutch was directed by Peter Feynman. I hope I'm saying that right.
Who cares?
He's Australian, I believe.
That explains it.
If you know his name, then you're probably a big fan of Crocodile Dundee because that's the only other movie he's directed.
Just the first one?
Yep. This was his second and last directorial duty as far as film goes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done stuff for television mostly. Probably the reason for that is because the movie had a $17 million budget and the box office was $4.6 million.
Dang.
Yes. It was produced by Robert Weissman, written by John Hughes, stars Ed O'Neill as Dutch Dooley. Many of you may know Ed O'Neill as Al Bundy from TV's Married with Children.
I know it.
Also stars Ethan Randall as Doyle Standish, who, if you listen to our previous episode, Late Phases, was the son in that movie.
Right.
And he was also one of the Rusties.
Yeah, I think of him mostly from That Thing You Do. I think he was
that's
the
one of his
bass
bigger
player.
Movies.
Yeah.
And then he was Rusty in Las Vegas Vacation.
Vegas Vacation, yeah. And other than that, I know he and Ed O'Neill eventually were in the Dragnet, second revival series of that.
The movie also stars Jo Beth Williams as Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as familiar with her.
I think she was one of Frasier's girlfriends.
We also have a Star Trek connection. The ex-husband character.
Yes. Shooter McGavin.
Okay, he knows him.
No, that's his name in Billy Madison.
Oh, okay.
Shooter. He and what's the guy, Richard Thornburn from Die Hard. He was also in Ghostbusters. They're notorious for always being movie jerks.
The jerky character.
Yeah.
Not always, but usually.
Almost
as soon as you see him,
yeah.
you just want to punch him. He has that
The
face.
only movie I can think of him of not being a jerk was SLC Punk. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I've never seen that.
Salt Lake City Punk.
No, I've never seen it. I know Matthew Lillard is in it, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah.
So this guy, what's his name again?
Well, Shooter McGavin. I can't think of his
I have
real-
his name written
yeah.
down somewhere, but we'll get to that later. But he was in the Star Trek Next Generation
Yesterday's
episode.
Enterprise.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just watched that one not too long ago.
That's funny. Me and some guys were just talking about that today.
For anybody that's familiar with TNG, that's the episode where Tasha Yar makes a comeback.
Yes.
There's
Because of a
two
time paradox.
enterprises, and there's
paradox paradox.
Yeah, there's a dark timeline, and then there's the normal timeline. Anyway, this guy was from the other.
He was from the
timeline.
Enterprise C.
Yeah,
something like that.
And they had to go back. They had to send the old ship back to where they became from. Otherwise, there would be a terrible.
Because they saved the Klingon ship from the Romulans, which helped segue the friendship between the peaceful, talks between the Federation and the Klingons. Because in the new timeline, now you find out that the Klingons and the Federation are still at war. In fact, it's even worse than it ever was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, back to this. Rotten Tomatoes scores 14% for critic and 62% for audience, which is kind of a big gap.
Yeah.
I feel like the critics missed it on this one. I think they were trying to compare it a little too much to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which you could say this is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles Junior in a way.
I have some things to say, but I'll wait till we get more into it.
Yeah, we'll get more into it. This is Embry's second movie. Other movies he's been in is Empire Records, That Thing You Do, Vegas Vacation, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, and Late Phases, which I mentioned. Mm-hmm. O'Neill and Embry would later star together again over a decade later in the 2003 version of the series Dragnet. There's a cameo appearance by golfer Arnold Palmer.
Really?
I could not think of where it was.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There's no golfing scenes, I don't believe.
I wonder why.
I don't know either. The only reason I know Arnold Palmer is because of the tea.
Yeah.
Nothing against golf.
Wasn't he in Billy Madison, I think?
Was he? I don't know.
I think so.
I know Bob
Grizzly Adams did have a beard.
Was it Bob Uecker that was in it, or?
I don't know. I just know in it, like, Shooter McGavin, he's talking to Adam Sandler, and he's like, yeah, and Grizzly Adams had a beard. And then there's this guy, which I thought was Arnold Palmer. It's probably not. Grizzly Adams did have a beard. And then he looks like, But maybe that's not.
You're talking about the golf one or the one where he goes back to school?
Oh, yes, Happy Gilmore. My bad. Happy Gilmore, that's the one, yes. But It's probably not Arnold Palmer, but I thought it was.
I'm not too familiar with Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore. I know a lot of people would be like, whatever, but I was never a huge Adam Sandler fan. The only thing I can remember from Happy Gilmore is that the guy that played Jaws from the James Bond movies is in it, Richard Kiel.
Yeah.
Who's a Detroit guy.
Is he?
Yes. Let's see. After being introduced to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu by his friend, writer and director John Milius, Ed O'Neill has trained for over 22 years under the mentoring of Rorian Gracie. In December 2007, O'Neill received his black belt. In the 2012 TV documentary, I Am Bruce Lee, O'Neill states that he considers getting his black belt the greatest achievement of my life, apart from my children.
Make sure you throw that in there at the end. It's better at the beginning, but just make sure it gets in there.
Yes. He was also successful.
I consider this podcast my greatest achievement, second to my wife and child.
I have not achieved my greatest achievement yet. I'm still working on it.
Being my friend is your greatest achievement.
Oh.
And that's kind of iffy.
You need to aim higher, my friend.
No, I said that's your greatest achievement.
I need to aim higher, my friend.
Yeah, I can aim higher, but this is as good as it gets for you.
Ed O'Neill was also a successful football player throughout his high school and college careers.
I can see that. I rember that being a point in Married with Children.
With Married with Children, he had the long-running joke, like he'd always relive, scored 3 touchdowns in one game, type of thing. He also played a boxer in the theater group that he got involved in college, which I believe he trained for. The only reason I bring that stuff up is because he probably could really beat up the Shooter McGavin guy. The film was mentioned in passing in an episode of Married with Children. Actually, I think it was mentioned a few times in Married with Children. There was one time during an in-flight... it was mentioned as an in-flight movie on the way to London in the series. They also showed it in a video store and made a joke that nobody would rent that or something along those lines.
What's the next one? I'm in suspense.
Well, the next one is actually another Married with Children thing. The film was... we can edit it. The film was shown in Married with Children, Dial B for Virgin, 1994, where the main characters, Ed O'Neill and Katie Seagal, were in a video store and looked briefly at a rack that showed a poster of the film with a sign over O'Neill's face that said free video. Prior to filming, director Peter Feynman, writer and co-producer John Hughes, and producer Richard Vane took a road trip throughout Georgia, the Carolinas, Mississippi, and Tennessee to scout the route of the film's characters.
I think it's pronounced reet.
Okay.
It's a terrible joke. Carry on.
If you pause it just right when Dutch is going through his wallet in the motel room, you can get a clear shot of his driver's license showing his address and name, which reads David Dooley, which means Dutch must be a nickname. Wow, that was a useless piece of trivia.
That's okay.
Mel Gibson turned down the role of Dutch. Ed O'Neill and Jo Beth Williams both appeared in the Christopher Walken film The Dogs of War.
Okay.
So this is their second time working together. Christopher McDonald.
That's Shooter.
Okay. Yep. Christopher McDonald plays Reed Standish the ex-husband. He appeared in 1990 Star Trek: The Next Generation. Well, we already talked about that. So there we go. That's the trivia.
All right. So, Brandon, this is episode 70. We made it.
Yeah, time to retire.
Yep. That happens after we hit 100.
You're the big John Hughes guy, but you said you had never seen this one. Is that right?
No, I never. I had heard of this one. I stated many times. There's so many movies that I've known about because I just remember like seeing the trailers in front of other movies or whatever. And this is one of those movies.
There's several phases of John Hughes' career, whether he's writing or directing or whatever, where like he started off with kind of like the teen.
Well, not really. I think before that he had like Animal House and Mr. Mom and like Nick and Haynes. It was like a Western or something. Okay. Then he went to like 16 Candles or whatever. I don't know which ones exactly first.
I know at a certain point, like he did so well with the teen movies, he didn't want to get stuck doing them, so he moved on to more like family-oriented movies.
Well, I think in the 90s, so like after like a lot of the teeny movies, then he went and did like more where, like you had like your Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller, where it was all from the teen point of view, and then he went to more like the adults' point of view, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Uncle Buck, Great Outdoors, And then it seemed like that was going from the kids' point of view, your Home Alones. And this is kind of a weird thing. As I watched it, this reminded me of 3 specific Hughes movies. Do you want me to go into that now, or would you like me to go into that later?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so obviously, like you already stated, the big one is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It's a road trip movie, 2 people not getting along, having to figure out how to, figure things out. The other thing it reminded me of, if you look at the relationship between John Candy's character, Buck, and the teenage niece, I don't remember what her name was, but where basically, they're butting heads all the time. It kind of reminded me of that, so that's Uncle Buck. And then the third thing it reminded me of is if you look at Home Alone, at the beginning, the way Kevin was with his mom, where he didn't want anything to do with her, and, I wish they would all just disappear. So it's almost like they took the relationship between the kid and the mom from Home Alone, between the niece and the uncle and Uncle Buck, and just the whole road trip aspect of 2 people not getting along and having to deal with all this junk. Yeah. And just mixed them together.
It's definitely, that was one of the complaints the critics had. Like, I watched the Roger Ebert, and they're saying it was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles again.
Yeah, that one's the obvious one.
But. Yeah, it did. It also reminded me of 3 John Hughes movies. So Planes, Trains, Automobiles was one. Home Alone was the other one. Okay. And this actually kind of came out sandwiched between those 2. Mm-hmm. And you can see elements of both in it.
Let's see. This was 91, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Home Alone was 90, I think.
Was it 90? I think it came out before Home Alone, actually.
I'm pretty sure Home Alone was 90, and I think 92 was Home Alone 2. So this Home Alone sandwiched this movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, Home Alone says 1990. I thought when I looked it up that it was between the 2, but whatever.
This one's 91, I'm almost positive, and Home Alone 2 is 92.
Okay.
But anyway.
Either way, like I really feel like it's those 2 blended together. I also got a little bit of Vacation in there because of the road trip aspect, which I know is a big part of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles as well, but there's just tiny bits of it that kind of seem similar. This movie kind of gets overshadowed by the rest of his work, and I know...
Well, I've been trying to slowly get caught up on some of these John Hughes movies, like ones I've never seen, like She's Having a Baby. Ugh. What's the other one? Great Expectations. Terrible. So I don't think I'm missing much. I got one more to watch. It's Career Opportunities. I've heard nothing good about it. It's got Jennifer Connelly in it. But, like, have you ever seen Curly Sue? That was also one of his, like,
I have not seen
early 90s movies. I could see where it's kind of going more that direction, but Curly Sue is a little more, it's more like the mom movie. It's a movie like your mom probably is going to like. It's, I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the dynamic of...
Like a chick flick, or...?
A little more in that direction. It's a little about Jim Belushi and the woman, and then, of course, like his relationship with the little girl. And I think just the fact that it was a little girl this time instead of, he kind of had this bratty boy thing going on.
Do you think that maybe it's one of those things where, like, he gets an idea stuck in his head, and he just keeps working on it?
I'm actually wondering if they said, hey, we love what you did with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We love what you did with Uncle Buck and Home Alone. Why don't you give us another thing like that? And, he could have been producing other things that were different, and they were like, no, we don't want to, that's not what we want.
They wanted Baby's Day Out.
Maybe.
Well, so
But it may be, or maybe just that he was a one-trick pony at this point and didn't have anything left. I don't know.
So this movie is kind of a buried John Hughes film. It's just, we're going to talk about it.
Well, I think really after Home Alone 2, I think really nothing in the 90s of his quite hit as well, I don't think.
So the question is this a buried turd or a buried treasure? And we'll talk about that.
All right.
So let's get on with the movie. It starts off with a kind of a soiree, if you will. All these rich people getting together in some mansion. It's the ex-husband, the guy that you said.
Christopher McDonald.
Yeah.
Shooter McGavin.
I believe it was his house, and all these people, the mom is there. She doesn't seem
Why
like
is
she
she
fits
there?
in.
I don't remember. Why would she be at her ex-husband's house?
He invited her, I guess, maybe. Yeah. He seems like the kind of manipulative guy that would have her there just to kind of, like, talk her down, humiliate her somehow. She doesn't exactly fit in with all these rich people, and it turns out that
because she married into it. She married into it.
Yeah. She was actually a waitress at a country club or something.
Yeah.
So, she met him in a rich area, but she was the help, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, she's now dating Ed O'Neill, Dutch, and she brought him, and he didn't quite fit in either.
Right, yeah.
He's more of a blue-collar, everyman type of
Well,
character.
yeah, he's they try to play him off that he's a man that's
like
successful.
A man's man.
Well, yeah, but he's kind of successful, but just not to the level. Like he's
they don't
more
hit
successful
it too
that
much
he's
at first.
Yeah, he's worked his way up.
He's a working man compared to all these other people.
But he's like
snooty.
he's the foreman, or he says he's the foreman or the boss man of his company that he's kind of built up, right?
No.
No?
Nope. I don't think they talk about it at all, really.
I thought he said that at one point to the kid. He was saying, like, I had to earn my,
well, he says
build
that.
this company up.
I had to earn my way through life, but he doesn't say how far he had gotten.
Because he offers that one guy a job at the end, so I assumed he was some kind of...
They save that for, like, a reveal at the end, that, like, actually he is kind of successful. But he's more of a normal, down-to-earth guy. He believes in hard work and people. Where this kid... Doyle is just spoiled rotten little kid, and he's
Kevin McAllister. You know he reminded me of a brattier version of Niles Crane from Frasier. Like,
well, that's actually not a bad comparison.
Obviously Niles has his snarky,
they're
ways,
up
but
on
they made
high,
him
looking down on everybody.
Much more like Kevin McAllister meets Niles. You know.
So at this party, we learn Ed O'Neill's a little bit of a goof, but also like. When it comes to... I can't remember the name of the mom in this movie.
Mom.
When it comes to Mom, he's pretty serious. He threatens the guy. He'll punch him so hard his dog will feel it if he hurts her.
Okay. I wondered if this was offered to John Candy, because when I saw this and I'm watching him, I totally felt like this could be John Candy. Specifically John Candy's character in Uncle Buck.
The role of Dutch?
Yes.
Well, it was offered to Mel Gibson. I didn't see anything about John Candy.
Right, but I'm just saying I could see John Candy in this role, personally. Because although, like, you have some movies like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where he's kind of this lovable guy, but, he'll defend himself when he needs to.
Yeah.
And then, like, same thing kind of in Great Outdoors, but in Uncle Buck, he's more... got the teeth out a little
like
more.
Like a no-nonsense type of guy.
I mean,
he's got the cuddly, goof-around side.
Yeah, but like when it comes to that teenage brat daughter...
he's taking care of business.
Yeah, and I could totally see John Candy in this role. And obviously, what's-his-face, John Hughes doesn't have a problem using a lot of the same people over and over and over again.
Yeah, he's got the set of people.
It made me wonder if either A... I mean, obviously you didn't find anything that says it was offered to him, but I wondered if either A, maybe it was offered to John Candy, and maybe he turned it down because he said, hey, I already did this in Uncle Buck. Or B, if again, maybe they said, hey, we want you to do something, but we don't want to see John Candy in every...
But he could have been doing something else, like maybe...
He could have been doing something else,
like
but...
Nothing But Trouble, I think, came out probably around the
very
same
well
time.
Could have been, but I'm just saying, I wondered if maybe they said, we don't want to see you having the same people every single time, or maybe he just didn't like it because it was too much like Uncle Buck.
So when it comes to this party, and more specifically the ex-husband and Doyle, the son, this might be the richest version of a John Hughes family that I've seen, because they tend to... He does a lot of class stuff, but he likes to stick to the upper middle class.
Right. I mean, yeah, if you look at the
like
McAllister house was nice.
Yeah. But this seems like just a notch above that, even.
Well, even the house of the kids in Uncle Buck, I think it was the same house that they used in Home Alone. If not, it looked an awful lot like it, but it was a nice house. Steve Martin's house in the end of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a nice house. That Maybe that was the house that they used for Home Alone, because it looks an awful lot like it.
All right, so it turns out that the...
Nothing to say on that?
No, I have nothing
You
to
call
say
me
on
out all the time when I don't say anything back. Jerk.
Who are you? All right, so it turns out that the mom wants Doyle home for Thanksgiving, and that, ex-dad is kind of brainwashed.
What is Thanksgiving?
He's kind of brainwashed
Never heard of
Doyle
that.
a little bit, and...
Well, yeah, he thinks that he's going to be taking him for Thanksgiving this year.
Well,
right?
He's conditioned.
Yeah.
He's been conditioned by his father to basically hate his mother and blame his mother for the divorce. And all
Right,
that
but
stuff.
he's also waiting for his dad. Remember, he makes a call. He thinks his dad is going to be taking him, and the new girlfriend answers or whatever. Something about going to London or something?
That's later in the movie.
Okay.
So Doyle's expecting to come home to his dad's for Thanksgiving. His dad's pawning him off on his mother, who he's trained to hate.
Yeah.
So she's all excited about it, and the kid isn't too thrilled about it. Ed O'Neill offers, I'll go down and get the kid. We'll bond on the way back up.
Right.
And this is to, because he's totally into mom and he wants to do her a favor. And
of
happy.
course, yeah, he wants to have a good relationship with her kid because he's
Right.
hoping. I mean, you're assuming he's eventually going to ask her to marry him. I'm thinking, right?
It sounds like that's the plan,
Yeah.
So, yeah, Doyle's dad is a turd. We meet Doyle. Doyle's a really big turd, too. Like you're saying, he looks down on everybody. He's telling other kids, I don't have a mom, I have a mother. And he's...
The kid goes, it's your ma.
Yeah.
Your ma's on the phone.
Yeah.
I don't have a ma.
Yeah, he's so snotty and stuck up. He's down in Georgia at a boys' prep school type of thing. Some kind of fancy private school.
Yeah.
And...
Looks like the place I went.
He's going to refuse to come home. I think his plan is just to sit there over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, once he finds out that his dad, whom he again thought he was going to be staying with, is not coming to get him or sending for him or whatever, he decides, well, yeah, I'd rather just stay here home alone,
if you will,
instead of going to see mom. So yeah, he's in the gymnasium or whatever, doing his karate, ninjutsu.
The what?
The gym?
Yeah. Okay.
What'd you think it said?
Nothing.
What did it say?
Oh yeah, so Doyle's doing karate. Yeah, I forgot about that. And
Karate I don't know which one.
Some kind of martial art.
Yeah,
it looks like he might actually know what he's doing. I don't know.
Maybe Ed O'Neill taught him a few things.
He put him in some judo holds or something. So Ed O'Neill shows up. Dutch shows up to take the kid home, and he is taken a little off guard by how snotty Doyle is and his uncooperative nature.
Was John Hughes on set, at least for any of the
I don't
filming that
know.
you know of? Because there were certain shots and things I saw that kind of reminded me of typical Hughes type stuff.
I feel like he probably was hands-on with the movie, even though he's just credited as the writer.
There's a few things I saw. I was like, I wonder. But.
So they start off fighting right off the bat, and...
well, at first he thought he was like an intruder or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or something
and
like
he
that.
starts to fight him right away, and he actually has like a pellet gun or a BB gun that he shoots him with.
Yeah.
So Ed O'Neill isn't very happy. He's going to take this kid back no matter what because he's doing it for his mom. And then we get the scene of Ed O'Neill walking out of the school with Doyle basically duct taped to the hockey stick. Almost looks like...
Yeah.
Like when, tribes people catch like some kind of wild beast and they're hauling it off to cook it.
Yeah, like a pig. You would tie a pig's,
Like on like a spit roast, is that what it is?
Sure, I'll go with that.
Yeah, so, basically he's kidnapping Doyle at this point. He's got him gagged, throws him in the back seat. They get off to a ferocious start, and Dutch is not afraid to just go ahead and let Doyle have it if he needs it. Which is probably good for Doyle. And this begins our road trip.
Right.
They go through all sorts of shenanigans.
Right, they get robbed from two lovely ladies.
Well, I think the first thing is they end up going to that gas station and gets the fireworks, right?
Yeah, and then later and
we get to see
off
that
to a farm or something. And
Ed O'Neill's character Dutch is almost in a way, like not always, but he has the capability of being just a big kid himself. And he's trying to get Doyle to let down
I think
his
it's
guard.
mostly that he's trying to get the kid to like him, but have some fun. I think he probably realizes the dad that he had probably didn't do stuff like this.
And that's also where he buys the racy playing cards.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had seen this movie with my mom, and that part stuck out to me the most because I think I was about 10 or so when I saw the movie. It's like, where do I get cards like that? Crazy.
Did she cover your eyes?
No, but you didn't really see anything.
No, but I mean, I didn't know she covered your eyes in anticipation.
I don't think she knew it was coming up. So. But, so that's when he's trying to bond with Doyle. They end up getting to that hotel after terrible night. What I thought would be really funny is, because, you know, they have those theories sometimes where the John Hughes movies are kind of all intertwined somehow.
A few of them. Ferris Bueller specifically
Had we seen, because this movie takes place on the road so much, like maybe they're driving at night and then they see a couple of guys on the side of the road that are having car trouble. Cool. That would have been neat, and it was John Candy and Steve Martin. It didn't literally have to be them, but it could have been their characters.
Right.
One thing that I thought was kind of a failure is the scene where they get to the hotel. He actually kicks Doyle out of the car because Doyle's being a pain in the butt, and makes him walk a mile or so in the snow to get to the hotel.
Which I was like, and I thought, that's a pretty big risk because, one, does the kid know exactly where he's going, like what exit to get off? Two, it's pretty cold. He could have got sick or whatever. He could have been hit or picked up by a creeper, you know.
All sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so when Doyle finally gets there, he's pretty upset with Dutch. Dutch is just sitting in the bed. He actually is looking out the window and worried about him.
He plays cool,
but he plays it cool when Doyle comes in, and he throws Doyle the keys to his car because Doyle says, "I need my bag out of my car."
Right, yeah.
Why would you do that? Of course, Doyle takes off in the car and basically sets it up to get smashed by a semi-truck.
Which I was like... Which is stupid, though, because you're kind of dependent on this car. At this point, whether you like it or not, you're going home to Mom.
And at this point, we don't know how well off Ed O'Neill actually is, too. So it makes the situation feel even more dire that they lost that car.
Well, you see, at this point in the movie, I think I was under the impression that he, again, maybe started a business that eventually became successful or took over business. He was like a working man turned businessman. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, like, why aren't you renting a car? Why don't you call for a taxi? Oh, yeah, it could have. But I was thinking at this point, once the car was destroyed, the car they had, I was thinking...
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I know he's not as well off as Shooter McGavin, but I thought he seems like he's probably in a good enough position where, I don't know, just something. So I was kind of confused why then he was like talking, we got to hitchhike or...
I think it's his plan just to help him bond more, and I think in the long run, part of the plan...
But he also wanted to get him there on time, and that was kind of a race against time to a small degree, you know?
Well, I think had it come to it, he just would have done it. But I think also part of the plan was to get spoiled, stuck-up Doyle to actually see how the rest of America really is, and maybe quit looking down on everybody and see that, you know, there's people out there that are nice, and maybe they're just down on their luck.
Yeah.
It's not that they're any better or worse than you, and you're not any better or worse than them. Just different situations for different people. And by the end of the movie, that ends up happening when they go to that homeless shelter.
Did Dutch wear a pinky ring?
Yes.
I remember thinking, I was like, really? A pinky ring? That seemed not really his style.
That might have been his high school football ring.
Very well could have been, yeah. Anyway, continue.
So then, at the really crappy looking hotel, I wouldn't want to stay there. The car gets smashed. We recognize the trucker. Isn't it like one of those guys that would show up like on Home Improvement or whatever, and he'd be one of those construction workers with the beard? Everybody's seen this guy before.
The guys from K&B Construction?
Yeah. So, your first clue that maybe Ed O'Neill is a little better off than he lets on. He hands the guy a bunch of money and says, "Hey, I'm sorry for all the trouble. Thanks for going along with my story to tell the cops.
Right.
Have
if
a good Thanksgiving.
If any issues,
here's my business card." Yeah. And then he really lets Doyle have it because he could have killed somebody.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And that was good. It was stupid of him to give him the keys, and it was almost cartoony. The movie's tone kind of goes back and forth between being slightly cartoony to being serious. Okay.
There's a part where I think he first gets Doyle and he has him in the car and he's got something stuffed in his mouth, and I was then Dutch eventually says, "By the way, that's my dirty underwear." Then he goes "Blah," and spits it out. I was like, why
did you hold it in your mouth?
Yeah, why, even if it was clean, why would you you could
sometimes the joke fails to the logic of it.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, so they spend the night, and then they have their little talk. Dutch actually lets Doyle deck him. He says, "I'll give you the first hit. You want to take a swing at me? Come on." Bends over, gives him his chin, and Doyle knocks him out. And I laughed so hard because the way Ed O'Neill falls after he gets hit, like he spins around and falls face first, and then just like his butt is sticking up in the air, and he just stays like that. And at that point, Doyle's like, "Oh no, what did I do?" And he's scared. He runs into the bathroom and locks himself in there. But then, they kind of hash it out a little bit. It's time to go to bed, and Ed O'Neill looks over and he sees Doyle kind of going through the racy playing cards.
Yeah.
So it's the first clue that, like, they're going to start getting along here soon. After that, they go to the world's worst diner. We even see that part in the trailer where she's like, "What do you have, hon? Anything that won't make me sick."
Right.
And it did. It looked disgusting in there.
I don't remember noticing it looking terribly disgusting. I just remember it looked like to me any just little roadside, trucker, truck stop diner for, I don't know.
Maybe I have higher standards.
Yes. Except for being friends with me.
Yep. They keep going. Like we said, it's a road trip. They have a few adventures. Eventually, they meet up with a couple of hookers. They don't realize
Do you know
that
who that girl is?
I recognize the one. Are you talking about from Pee-wee?
Yes. I think the blonde, right?
She was Dottie, the one that was driving, yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I know she did the voice of, like, Tommy Pickles from Rugrats.
She does a lot of voice work, yeah.
She did, I don't know if she did
I didn't
Chucky
recognize her
as well.
because of her voice, though.
She was also in a few episodes of Friends, or at least one episode of Friends as Phoebe's old friend / rival.
I kept looking at her. I'm like, why does she look so familiar? And then when I looked it up, it was Dottie from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Pee-wee's girlfriend.
Oh, from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking of, what was the redhead from the show? Miss something? Okay, whatever. Continue.
Cowboy Curtis.
Yes, that's it.
Played by Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, okay.
And so they end up stealing from him. She had such a hard time trying to get that pinky ring off.
Yeah.
There was a cartoony part in that, too, but this one actually landed for me, where...
She didn't get it, right?
No, she never got it off, but she had that lotion. She's going to put that lotion all over his hand trying to get it off, but it's stuck on there. And something happens, they hit a bump or whatever, and that lotion just shoots straight into Ed O'Neill's open mouth while he's sleeping. He wakes up the next morning with a bad taste in his mouth. It's so
Didn't he
funny.
wake up right then and there? Didn't that wake him up?
No, he woke up in the morning, and then he's just with his mouth.
Yeah.
They get abandoned at the gas station by the hookers.
So what did they get? They got his wallet, is basically what they got.
They got his wallet and probably whatever credit cards were in there.
But they didn't take any of their bags or anything out of their bags, right?
No.
Or in fact, I don't know. They might, didn't they? I don't know if they got their bags at that point, because I know they said, like, oh, like, we're going to fill up the car.
I think everything was gone.
Yeah. So basically what they had on them minus his wallet.
There was a point, too, where they got to maybe an airport, or maybe it was the bus station, where they had the scene kind of like in Home Alone, where, the mom is calling home to talk to Kevin. But they have Ed O'Neill calling home to talk to the mom, and, Doyle still isn't having it. He doesn't want to talk to her. That's the scene where there's an old man in the bathroom, like, washing his arms.
Oh, yes. He's, like, basically using it as a bathtub, essentially. Very Neil Page.
Yeah, that was...
no.
Okay, that was...
Neil Page was Steve Martin. Who's the other? John Candy's? Del Griffith.
Yeah, that's it. I wrote down in my notes here, Angel with Dirty Wings. Was that a movie poster or something?
Angels with Dirty Wings. Oh, Angels with Dirty Souls. Well, that was from Home Alone.
Yeah, and that's what caught my eyes. It was so similar to the Home Alone joke.
I don't know.
I can't remember. We watched this a few weeks ago, so we're having some issues. Eventually, after they get robbed and whatever, they have to end up riding home in some, like, concrete cylinders, concrete tubes.
Yeah, probably something for a sewer.
Which is kind of funny because it turns out that Dutch is the owner of his own concrete business.
It's funny, too. There's a lot of scenes in, again, Hughes movies where they have to, at some point, ride in something unconventional. Planes, trains, and automobiles, they ride on the back of a pickup truck. They're in the back of I don't know if it was a dairy refrigerated truck. In Curly Sue, they're on a car hauler in an actual car, but on the car hauler, they're in the big concrete.
In Home Alone, that band traveled around in like a U-Haul or something.
Yeah, so it just seems like that's a recurring thing. That's why another reason I wondered if he was giving them notes or he was on set.
Well, there's so many beats that they hit with the John Hughes film. You got the road trip, the buddies, the kid that doesn't get along with the adults.
Right.
There's so many things that, like, those are common themes.
Yes.
The high society versus low society type of mentality he has. He had that in Breakfast Club.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, there's a little bit of class stuff in there. They're riding home in the concrete. One of the things that I thought was kind of funny is when you're a kid, like how invincible you are. Like, you're just indestructible as a kid. Doyle hops out of the concrete tube, no problem, he's fine. But Ed O'Neill pops out of the concrete tube, his back is killing him. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, if I had to lay down in that thing, I would be killed afterwards. Yeah. Just trying to straighten out your back and all that stuff.
Well, obviously it's not the point of it, but how did they even get in there? Does the driver know they're in there? If the cops saw them, they could get, the driver fired. And
it seems like that would have been an awfully dangerous thing to do.
Oh, yeah. And I was looking at it, yeah. But I was thinking, like, okay, obviously they filmed somebody, actually, and obviously it wasn't them. And I was thinking, like, man, even for that, like...
It's also at this point in the film where, because, the gas station scene, Ed O'Neill admits, I was just doing this for you. I was trying to be friends with you. I give up on you. Forget you. Forget your mom. I'm just going to go home. And it's kind of like a reverse psychology thing. Mm-hmm. Very convincing reverse psychology. And Dutch ends up not Dutch, but Doyle ends up kind of realizing, like, my mom is important to me. She does care about me. This guy is doing his best. And, they're not exactly friends at this point, but they get more respect, or I should say Doyle gets more respect
some kind of
for
understanding,
Dutch.
some kind of clarity, yeah.
And he's like, no, I want to go home to my mom. Let's do this. Let's finish this road trip.
Mm-hmm. Because they show that Dutch didn't want to call the mom and say, hey, look, we got robbed, the car got destroyed, this happened, that's happened. He didn't want her to know how bad it's going, or her to worry about that. In fact, I think when they're at the shelter, he basically said that he called his mom and said they stayed that they were at like a Holiday Inn or whatever, just so she wouldn't worry about. But still, I thought, like, if he is a foreman, as could have called like somebody.
Oh, I'm sure
he had money wired.
I still think he could have got money anytime he wanted to. He just wanted to do the full trip with the kid. At this point, it's where we get to the scene with the guards. So they get to, I don't know what, a truck yard, I suppose, and they're trying to get out of there. Or
I don't remember where they were in it, but they were trying to get out of it.
Yeah, I think that was the case.
But I can't remember how they got in it.
Well, because I think the truck drove in there, the truck that they were hitchhiking on. So they get out, and the two guards are telling them to leave, and they're like, hey, no problem, we're trying to get out. And the guards are real jerks for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They get physical even with Doyle.
To help bring the bonding.
Is at this point, I kind of wish that the guard scene where maybe Ed O'Neill got the upper hand on the guards, like, hey, he's just a kid, and they start messing with him, so he knocks one out. And that would have been good for Doyle to see, like, well, this guy isn't just a joke. He can actually, he's pretty serious. But instead...
Which also makes him seem less threatening for the threats he made toward the dad. I mean, not that the dad's Mr. Fighter, but basically, if
Well, it would have been a reminder to the beginning of the film when he's like, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Yeah. So, but what ends up happening is they decide to go the cartoony route and have, even though he's good with the karate and stuff, they have Doyle be the one that kind of beats up the guards a little bit. And
it was this whole thing about the gun. They thought it was a real gun.
It was his BB gun he still had with him somehow.
Yeah, no, Ed had it because he kept saying he owed him one.
Oh yeah, he was going to shoot him. That was a
Doyle got him at the beginning of the film, and he put the gun in his pocket, saying like, "Look, I owe you one."
Yeah,
but he was like kind of having him play up this like I'm a psychotic,
Yeah, they have him talk to the voices. The scene is kind of funny, but I would have preferred they played that one more straight.
Yeah, it didn't work for me.
There's a couple of running gags throughout the film. That's one of them, is that I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you with this gun. And then the other one would be Dutch constantly calling Doyle by other names, Danny, Dave. They always started with a D.
Okay.
So they get roughed up a little bit. They get kicked out of a restaurant where they're just trying to use the phone because they look like homeless people, but there's a couple dining there.
Okay.
That take them to a shelter
nearby.
That's where they meet all the... Essentially, it's the bird lady scene of this movie.
Right.
Like the bird lady from Home Alone 2, or the trash can guy from Home Alone 1.
Oh, man, Marley.
Where, here's these people that Doyle looked down on and thought were disgusting, and now he's in with them, and now that he can kind of see things from their perspective, or he gets a chance to know them a little bit, they're not so bad.
And I don't know, it didn't work for me. They show the part where he's talking to the one woman, I think it was afterward, when everyone was kind of asleep, and they want you to have this, it's supposed to be this heartfelt moment where, his eyes are open to, like, that, and I see what they're going for, but it just felt unearned. Like, it just didn't seem like he was there yet, or just felt like they were just trying to now we have to have this. We have to have our character who's a brat kind of, start melting away the stone of his heart.
I don't know. I think
it didn't work for me.
I think they built up to enough because they had the scene earlier where they're eating dinner and the little girl goes to grab his bun.
Yes. And then he immediately says, mine, and then he changes and gives... Yeah, I don't know. It just... None of that worked for me.
You can see it slowly working throughout the movie, I think.
Very
anyway,
well.
I caught it. I thought it was...
You're wrong,
Not
but
too long after that, we finally get home. They have the scene where they reunite. Was the maid somebody? I'm trying to remember. Like, they had the housekeeper there.
There was a woman there, an older lady.
Okay, I know who she was. She was in Gremlins 2. She was the cook. And she was also in...
Oh, I thought you were more asking what... Was she something to them?
No, the actress that played the housekeeper.
Okay.
She was in Inner Space. Have you seen Inner Space? Mm-hmm. She was the woman in line at the cash register that was freaking Martin Short out.
Okay.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I remember him being at the checkout line, but I don't remember exactly what happened.
Okay.
But yeah, she looks very familiar. I've seen her and stuff.
She's in a lot of stuff. They wrap everything up here. Ed O'Neill delivers his promise on that punch.
Right, so
which leaves an
Christopher McDonald comes, the dad comes.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, he's decided to, I want to spend time with my son, so he, at this point, wants to take him away for,
Well, I think what happened is he realized that he had been busted because Doyle had called, and the girlfriend answered. Right. He was supposed to be away on a business trip, and London, here's this strange woman answering the phone.
Right, okay.
So I think what happened is she ended up telling me, yeah, there was some kid on the phone. He probably put two and two together, like, okay, I better get over there and make things right because I've had so many years of psychological conditioning that I've put into Doyle to hate his mom.
Could be.
And it's all going to get ruined now.
Right, so Doyle ultimately decides not to go with the dad, and I can't remember, I think that's when he gives a big threat, like, you're out of this house, and, so pack up, whatever. And that's when Dutch follows him out and gives him the punch. And he's, like, kind of falling around, slipping on the ice.
Yeah, he's kind of, like, out on his feet type of deal where, his eyes are open, but he's not quite all there after that punch.
Right, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's winter, so there's ice and, snow on the ground, so he's kind of having trouble staying up.
Yeah, and then, I'm going to get you.
Yeah, that was the last thing. So, at that point, he says, Doyle, would you mind getting something out of my jacket pocket? I thought it was going to be a ring, and he was going to propose to the mom right then and there. It was just a ploy to get him to get up out of his seat so he can hit him.
I was fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually
had
by that point I forgot about the getting him back for it. But and there we end. Okay.
Yeah, and that was basically it. Now
they did do some added scenes during the credits of him with the fireworks and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I watched the credits. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Ed O'Neill real quick.
Okay.
Obviously, is most recognizable as
Mervyn, the janitor from
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. No, he's obviously Al Bundy.
Yeah.
It's hard to look at him and not see Al Bundy.
Yeah.
However, it seems like everything I've seen him in outside of Married with Children... I haven't watched Modern Family at all, have you?
No.
But he was in Wayne's World. He hasn't had a whole lot of film...
Very small part in Wayne's World 1 and 2. And in 2, he's different from what he was... He seemed more Al Bundy-esque in Wayne's World 2 as opposed to 1.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of like that monologue he gives. Is that the first one where it's like real dark?
Yeah, something like it was about them getting the show. Like people need to be entertained. I wish someone would do something to stop the voice in my head for 5 seconds.
So
the Indians believed when you stabbed a man in the dead of winter, the steam rising from the wound was the soul escaping from his body.
He owned the donut store, right? Is just the guy that owned the donut store?
I don't know if he owned it. I think he just worked there.
Whatever. It's better than a shoe salesman, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, the way that conversation went. But
I would think
he
it'd be
didn't
better.
seem like Al Bundy, at least in that part. I don't remember him in the second one, really.
Yeah.
And as far as this movie goes, because he's so recognizable as Al Bundy, he's so synonymous with that character, and it's such a long-running show, you would think that by watching this, you could only see Al Bundy, but I felt like I almost never saw Al Bundy.
Yeah,
acting.
It's like, okay, Married with Children, I kind of watched it a little bit. It was one of those shows I highly doubt Mom wanted me to watch, and it's like, not that I, liked it, I don't know, just for some reason, I just remember kind of watching it here and there, but, it was never one of my favorite shows.
It's one of those ones where, I'm sure my parents wouldn't want me watching it, and I saw bits and pieces of it when I was a kid, but I didn't really care that much. because it wasn't directed at us as kids, I think.
Maybe.
But as I got older and they started showing like reruns or whenever I'd catch it, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay.
It's worth going and checking out again,
Yeah.
especially now that you're a little older and you can kind of understand everything that's going on in it. But yeah, you're saying, as far as his acting goes?
Well, yeah, but that's still, regardless, the thing I most know him from is that. And yeah, I basically got over, like, quickly, you know, I wasn't like the whole time I was watching, I was thinking, Al Bundy. I let it go. Or it didn't, like, you know, hold on to me that, you know, this seems weird to watch him do something else.
And Doyle, what's that actor's name again?
Ethan Phillips.
Yeah, that's
a
it.
joke. Ethan something. Ethan, that thing you do.
Right.
Griswold.
That we thought was in Hackers and isn't.
Yes.
You know, his acting was all right. Especially, you know, for children actors, the bar's got to be set lower because a lot of times they're not great. Sometimes they are. He did fine in this, and I thought that their chemistry worked out pretty well. They worked well together on screen, I believe.
You know, it's funny looking at him. It's like I can kind of tell, you know, because I mostly know him from when he's grown up. So I was looking at it, it's like sometimes I could see, okay, yeah, that's clearly him, and then sometimes he didn't even look like the same person to me. It was like, you know what I mean? Or no? Yeah.
Well, I don't know what he looked like in That Thing You Do, because I don't think I watched it. But
he was like this nerdy.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we saw him just recently in Late Phases. He's a little, you know, probably
in Late
40s.
Phases, and even in Vegas Vacation, like his hair is shorter, and you know, it's
he basically looks about the same
bit.
in in Vegas Vacation as in That Thing You Do.
And
roughly.
he's skinnier, like he's lost his. Yeah. Not that he was fat, but like the you know,
the
kids
baby
are
face
little
and whatever.
chubby sometimes. Yeah, like the baby face, whatever. He lost that, but in this, he still had that. He still looked like a child.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect because I'd seen this one as a kid and it had been so long.
Okay.
I didn't remember much about it.
Okay.
And even though it seemed so similar to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with a little bit of that other stuff in it too, I still really enjoyed it.
Okay.
There were plenty of parts where I watched it with Christy. We were both laughing. There were parts with Ed O'Neill where I thought he was just hilarious. Some of the stuff that he did. I think he's actually a really good actor. I think it helps when you start with theater.
Okay.
I don't really know what I'm talking about, but
It hasn't stopped you for any time before.
A lot of theatrical actors, or at least I know we're big into theater, seem like they do really well. I'm thinking like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen stuff. I'm not saying he's like that, but they're like Shakespearean actors. And then once you get them into anything, even as stupid as like X-Men or Star Trek might be, or silly or out there, you know what I mean?
Watch it.
Just as far out as that is, they're so good that they really like.
No, I feel you.
They make whatever they're doing feel solid.
Well, I think that's probably because they have to perform it sometimes night after night in front of a live audience, you know, where a movie you can, I messed up a scene, let's reset and reshoot, where theater, you have to get it right the first time.
I feel really bad that this movie didn't do better than it did. Like, I'm not going to say it's as good as Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or any of those other movies we mentioned, but it wasn't as bad as the critics said for sure, in my opinion. And I feel like it's the critics that ended up causing harm to the movie, because the audience score is actually kind of up there. It's a 60-something percent. It's not the greatest score ever.
Yeah.
But I feel like if the movie were slightly more well-known, it might be kind of a cult classic.
Could be.
But it just got buried under all these bad reviews.
What was coming out around this time, I wonder? I wonder what its competition was, you know?
Well, this probably came out at the end of the year, then.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I know at that time, movies weren't the, you know, where we're having, like, so many blockbuster movies come out all year. I just wonder what it had to go up against.
So, yeah, it says 1991 on here, so we'll do films. Wikipedia usually has lists.
It's okay, you don't have to look it up.
I'm looking it up now, because... So, 1991 wide-release films. I'm actually looking through 91 looking for Dutch, and I don't see it.
Because it wasn't even on the map.
Oh. Okay, so Dutch actually came out in July of 1991, which...
Really? That's kind of
weird. That would have been a horrible time for it to come out. So, let me back it up.
Not only because that's when more your summer blockbuster movies, but also it's not released around the time of its theme or setting, so that seems weird.
So if I back it up a little, What About Bob, City Slickers, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The Rocketeer.
Just watched that one.
Naked Gun 2.5. Problem Child 2.
A lot of them are comedies.
Terminator 2.
Oh.
Boys in the Hood. Point Break. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Okay, that's enough. I get it. So yeah, basically everything else was, even if they weren't like huge smash hits, they did better than this.
Right. Well, I imagine that Terminator 2 owned that whole summer.
Yeah.
And it's just such a weird time to have a Thanksgiving movie in the middle of July.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's the fact that, yeah, it was a Thanksgiving-themed movie being released in July, and then not only that, but the competition, not that they were killers. But
the earliest it should have came out was middle of October.
Or late October, yeah. Yeah, that's weird. But anyway, final thoughts, or?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think, going back to our question, is it a buried turd or is it a buried treasure? It leans more towards the buried treasure part. It might not be the fanciest gem in the box, but it's got a nice shine to it, I think. Ed O'Neill does a great job. There are plenty of parts where I laughed out loud. And just in general, it was a fun movie that I think you could probably watch, with your family. Not little kids, but...
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't too bad. I'm going to give it a C.
Okay. This is one I, again, never seen but knew of, and I have been wanting to watch a lot of the lesser-known Hughes movies, so I'm glad I watched it. And although I don't think it's as bad as I've heard, I don't think it's as great as a lot of the others. I think it feels like a mashup, but I think it does it not as well. It doesn't have the charm to me that those have. I think some of the things felt forced, kind of like the turning of like, now we're kind of, finding some common ground. It just didn't feel natural or didn't feel earned to me. Not terrible, but I think I'll go a D+.
Okay. Would you say if somebody is a fan of the other movies that it's similar to, that it'd be worth checking out?
Yeah, I mean, I would never, it's not as so bad that I would ever say, oh man, don't waste your time watching this. Yeah, I would say give it a shot. But that's where I stood with it. So I'm glad I watched it. Now, we were planning, had things, like I said, this has been a rough month. We were going to do Son-in-Law with Dutch, and then I had said, well, I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a Pauly Shore month, so I was like, let's take Son-in-Law off the table, and maybe next year sometime we'll do like Pauly Shore month, and we'll do like 3 movies in a row, all Pauly Shore. But we were going to do another movie to go along with this, not necessarily a Thanksgiving movie, but just things have been... It
was more necessarily a Star Trek movie.
Yes, and things have been rough this week, again, this month, so...
Yeah. This is our 3rd attempt.
Yeah.
at getting this one done.
Yeah,
we were going to do 2 tonight, but we're just doing 1 at the moment.
So, hopefully this, someone was interested and appreciated this.
Whoever's still listening, thanks for listening.
All us, just us.
One day, let us know who you are. Say hi.
So, check us out, Facebook, iTunes, Instagram, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify. We're all there. Email us.
MySpace.
Give us some suggestions, give us some
GeoCities.
feedback, and thanks for listening.
Yahoo.
Don't forget Hotmail.
Goodbye.
All right. Have a good one. Good night. Good day. Good afternoon. Whatever. That's Truman Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to travel through time. I bid you adieu.
Don't stop now! You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
Where are you going? I've got to return some videotapes.
Bye, Felicia.
You will experience some technical difficulties. I think you don't hear me right. You will be clear. You're terrible. Right. Sometimes when you look to me, you can look to me like this. We waited to get kind of a family-oriented movie. I don't want to see the pure Clinton automobile. I really don't. I really don't.